It's time to feel the rage. Welcome to Film Rage, where we talk movies. We continue to patiently wait for the theaters to open as our partial lockdown continues. But we will continue to stream the latest releases and review some classic films as well. Directors and actors beware, as you cannot hide from the rage. My name is Bryce, and I'm part of the Film Rage crew, which also includes Jim. Hello, Jim.
Hey.
With the introductions out of the way, let's rage on.
Oh, baby. This week on the podcast, we talk about new flicks to streaming. Who knew? Who knew we would do streaming this week? Another special event by our friends at SIF Calgary, Open Rage. The list is going to be epic. Rage or Dare. And then we wake up from 2020, embrace 2021 as the future that Johnny Mnemonic and my boy Keanu Reeves predicted would happen. It's all happening tomorrow, people. Everybody watch Johnny Mnemonic tonight before you fall asleep. When you wake up, that's exactly what 2021 is going to be. It's done.
Excellent.
Now, we've got a special promo we're going to do today for three of my favorite, well, I should say our favorite, because if they didn't love our podcast as much as we do, I don't know what would, because they do. And these are dads on Dayquil. Huh. That sounds pretty groovy, baby.
And you can check out COVID and chaos. Three dads bring to you a riot of entertainment every hump day.
Hump day. We are Jordan, aka the Gnome.
Josh, aka the Dome.
AJ, aka the Stone.
And together we're dads on Dayquil.
Between the three of us, we have 10 kids.
That we know about.
We're talking about you, Johnny Six. Sit down, turn up the volume, and crack a cold one as we bring you a glimpse into our dad lives. We break down our weekly events with our dad stories and tons of shout outs.
Dad Corner.
We bring you dad games. We also cover music, movies, and all things entertainment. Hell, we even bring you the Stone Safe House for off-the-wall references.
Heyo!
So come check us out on your favorite podcast platform, even if you prefer certain platforms that we don't. Yeah, we're talking about you, Google Podcasts.
Meow.
Dad's out.
Dissing the Google. Yeah, dissing the Google podcast. I love it. And you can find the dads at D as in dads, Dayquil as in Dayquil at Twitter. So check these babies out and search them on YouTube. They got some pretty funny shit. These guys just did some big promos for us. Go on our YouTube too, because it's got a cool video that they made for us. We love these guys, and my nose is itchy, so that must mean I'm doing too much coke or something. I don't know what that means. What's an itchy nose mean? What's the vernacular of itchy nose?
Oh, no idea.
Oh, well. Well, you know what time it is? Let's dance. Streaming. Motherfucking streaming. Bryce, we're doing what?
We're streaming. All right, sir. So we streamed a few things this week.
Yeah, we did.
And we are going to start with a movie called Pieces of a Woman, which is currently playing on Netflix.
You
heard Netflix?
Yeah, it's got something to do with movies and stuff, maybe.
Yeah. All right. This was an exhausting movie to watch.
It's almost like you gave birth to a baby and then it died.
Almost. It is, well, yeah, it's the story of a woman who suffers a loss of her baby moments after giving birth. I hope that's not a spoiler. It shouldn't be, because as you watch the first half hour of this feature, there's no question what's going to happen. Yet it's still a draining and heartbreaking experience. From there, we follow her journey over the next several months, the effects it has on her marriage, as well as her family and friends. Vanessa Kirby as Martha gives the performance of her career thus far. Ellen Burstyn also shines as Elizabeth, the mother of Martha. This is her best performance since Requiem for a Dream. The scenes with Kirby and Burstyn are unforgettable. Shia LaBeouf is also stellar as Sean, the husband. LaBeouf seems to put everything he has into everything he does these days, and this was no different. There is a realism to his performance that not a lot of actors have. He doesn't act like Sean, he is Sean. With all the great in this film, and there was a lot, there was one aspect that kept it from being fantastic. I found the side story of the court case a little clunky and seemed only to be there so Martha could make her big courtroom speech. This sensationalized trial seemed a little too much. Number one, I don't believe this tragedy would have gotten quite that much attention from the media. And more importantly, it distracted from the deeply personal journey Martha was experiencing. This was close to being great, but with the unnecessarily melodramatic focus on the trial, this perfectly acted and worth seeing film gets a meh, a high meh, but a meh nonetheless.
Well, this is very interesting because it's a start that we don't normally see. Usually we're battling it out right off the very beginning. So 25 minutes of childbirth was probably just a little bit too long for a real-time birth. First off, having their first baby, I don't know anybody who's had 25 minutes where they gave birth. So right away I was like, okay, my first child took, I want to say 23 hours my wife was in labor. And
that's a long movie though, Jim.
Yeah, it would have been a long movie. So if you're going to make a real-time film, yeah, maybe don't do it like that. It just because her water breaks.
It would have had to have been a series with 23 episodes.
Yeah, it could have been maybe. I mean, we could have seen her in labor for 23 hours. I don't know. I'm just saying it's not very often that somebody gives birth in 25 minutes once their water breaks. But that, maybe what we were talking earlier about magic. So who knows? So yeah, right away it was actually annoying me. Because I'm thinking, what the fuck, and why do they need to show this much detail? But then, when the baby came, I completely understood. I still think 25 minutes is maybe a little bit too long. The emotion that started the 25 minutes rolled through to the birth and beyond. The scenes with Shia LaBeouf and Vanessa Kirby were amazing. Marriage story, awesome, is what I would say, of intensity. And really felt that they were truly connected. I really did feel that both of them were connected at this part in the movie. And then bam, motherfucking Ellen Burstyn shows up on the screen. Or should I say, yeah, I did that last time too. And then bam, the mesmerizing Ellen Burstyn shows up on the screen.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. Motherfucking Ellen Burstyn. With her presence, I was like, Ellen.
How awesome was she?
I love her so much. I just love her. I felt it had a little bit of a Woody Allen feel through some of the heavy dramatic roles. I felt some influence from Woody there from some of his earlier dramatic films like Hannah and Her Sisters and that type. I really kind of started to feel the influences there. But it would the film puts smatterings of dramatic scenes and then focuses you and forces you to reflect as it pushes you forward with a slow, methodical dialogue that with familiar moments, not really pushing you too far over the edge. Once you have seen the birth and the death scene at the beginning, it tries to gain your interest and in its emotional depth. But I found that the characters were not as strong as I felt the film should be. The emotion in this film kept going up and down, but not in escalating or de-escalating way. I found it hard to grab onto the emotion and our lead actress that I was desperately wanting to feel. Not that she wasn't doing a great job of the acting. I 100% agree with what you said, but I felt that the film and how it was constructed, because I think that journey, you like the way you said it about the whole, it was almost just like a letdown. The court scene became a letdown, and it took us off this emotional roller coaster that we were on, and I was enjoying it fully. I think each actor did a great job of what they were doing, and the ending was good, but ultimately the film lost its intensity and lost the emotion and became a great actors making meh.
Yeah. I can't argue with you there.
No magic.
Yeah, no, as I say, it was rolling along, and when we got into like the first hour and a half, I was on board the whole way. But once we got into the court stuff and the weird detours we made with that, and then the overly convoluted speech at the end, which I think it would have been more effective had she just gotten in touch with the midwife and had that conversation with the midwife. It didn't have to be the sensational speech to the world,
Yeah.
It just had to be between those two that, you know what, I forgive you. And it was too much.
Yeah, I agree.
For an intimate story, it should have still been intimate, and it wasn't. So.
And interesting, you talked about Shia LaBeouf, and I'm thinking that his last film before this one is now also showing on Netflix. And it may be a while that we see Shia LaBeouf in anything, because he's going back into a court case where he's got a lawsuit on him. So
yeah, I know.
He may end up in the realms of some of our other great actors this last year that could not get control of their emotions. So, I mean, if you're going to leave your legacy and this may be your last film that we see, at least you did a good job, Shia. I don't want to pronounce anybody guilty when they haven't even had their trial. So, but this could be something he's not going to recover from. So,
yeah.
All right. We also saw Antebellum, and I know we're going to have a disagreement here, but before I do this review, I want to get it out there that I wanted to check in before I did my review with what I would consider a white ally and a friend of the Black community, to give her input for me, as I want to make sure I challenge other people that carry white privilege to this film with different eyes. My friend and the said ally, her name is Celeste from the podcast Taboos, who is one of the best and most important people I can say I have ever known. Her challenge to me and to you, our listeners, is, and I want to quote, direct quote, a call for action to other white people to watch this film from the perspective of wakeness, to watch this film as a movie, but as a documentation of what happened or is happening. Challenge them to watch it in knowing what's going on in the world right now, in America and Canada, and the world, I guess, for that matter. That's my words, not hers. Right now, to watch this from the view of the Black community and how far they've come as a group in society, and yet how far society has yet to go to make it up to that same group. And that's close quote. I suggest anybody wanting to start to open your mind to listen to two specifically of Taboos' podcast. One is on white privilege, and the other one is called Black Women Matter. The podcast name, again, is spelled Tabooz in Canada, or Z in the US, E. And just search it. They're pretty much everywhere these days. These are great ladies doing great things to open all of our minds. And I wanted to prequel my review with that comment, because in Film Rage, all of us are very anti-racism, and anything we can do for the Black community, we are on board with. So now to continue, I had such a tough time watching this movie. Any movie with slavery in it. I feel physically ill when I see the inhumanity portrayed. Obviously, it's because of the evil that they are, but I also think it's because as a family, when I was a kid, we watched the original series by Alex Haley's miniseries Roots. Together, we watched it as a family, and I knew nothing about it. At the time, this was like an eye-opening awakening about what was even happening. So imagine in my youth being like 7 or 8 or whatever the age was that I saw this, and I knew nothing about it. So every time I see films about slavery, it makes me cringe and brings up those moments of discussions I had with some of my friends, because at the time I had friends of mine that were also Black. And so having the discussion with them about roots as a child, when I see movies about this, it brings up those memories for me now. For me, this was a huge moment for me to start to understand white privilege. Even now, I fully don't get it, but I am trying. I fucking hate that this is part of our history, part of our present, and part of our future, that we live with racism. I hope I can I can be a better ally to our Black friends and our BIPOC culture. Ugh is all I want to say. I hate seeing slavery focused in films, but at the same time, it's great to get this in our faces as much as possible and in different ways. And I feel that this director does just that. It brings slavery discussion into a new way for us to see it. Our lead actress, Janelle, I'm you know me in pronunciations, Janelle Monáe.
Monáe.
Yep, is brilliant in this film. Her gaze, so icy cold and full of hate, was so amazing. Every scene carries a level of intensity of abuse and dominance. And from scene 1 through to 53 minutes in, I was like, what? Not normally something I notice, but Janelle Monáe's wardrobe in this film was also amazing. I felt that the color palette used by the director almost created a mood amongst itself. She was the shining light of the coloration of this film. What a surprise to see motherfucking Precious herself, Gabri Sindebi. Do you think that's the right pronunciation? In this film, I freaking love her, and she killed it in Precious, and she killed it, I felt, in this. She was a completely different character. So
she killed it in Precious.
Yeah, she did. So at 1 hour and 11 minutes and 10 seconds into this film, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Slow build of suspense while we continue to not understand what the hell is happening with her. And then bam, this totally M. Night Shyamalama ding-donged me. I had droppings through it, led, I just like, I don't know what's happening. And then, but I love the way that it so subtly sort of planted it. I hate to spoil it, but I motherfucking loved it. When she lit that fire, I was like screaming at the screen, burn, baby, burn. Gets a Black ladies who kick motherfucking ass, motherfucking bitches, and motherfucking dicks. Mondo. I love this film. Favorite line was by Tongea Crisisa, Cracker Ass Cracker, which also pretty much sums up this film. Over to you.
All right. I don't agree, or I don't disagree with any of you said before, but as far as the film itself goes, it was not great.
Well, let's hear it. Why not?
Well, the plus their promo department didn't do it any justice either. So I found myself actually overthinking this one as the story unfolded. One of the major problems with it is that within the advertising of this film, they tell you to wait for that monumental twist ending that will have audiences reeling. I guess the advertising sort of worked indirectly, as it was obvious early on what the twist was. Okay, but I was thinking it cannot be that simple. So I was racking my brain trying to figure out this giant twist when it was just the obvious foreshadowed conclusion that wasn't really surprising at all. I will first say, when talking about this film, that Janelle Monáe is a star.
Yep.
That is undeniable. She's an undeniable presence on the screen. That is the good in the film. The bad is pretty much everything else. Everyone can see what the message of the film was, but not everyone can be Jordan Peele. A lot of this made little sense to me. It seemed as though, other than where to step, there was very little plan for our heroine to escape her situation. And because of that, why did she wait so long to take action? Made no sense. The over-the-top execution turned this into a bit of a sideshow, sort of like an exploitation film, but without all the laughs. The scenes that were in the present day did little to make me sympathize with our main character, which should have been the part of the intention for that. I mean, I didn't like her in her present day. I don't understand. Like, I didn't like her. I didn't like her friends. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah.
It seems like a little tweaking here and there. This could have been at least watchable, but alas, it is what it is. This was a rage. The message is absolutely great. I just wish it was a better movie so that it would deliver that message in a better way.
Yep. It's interesting. I kind of understand why you think that. For me, as I was watching it, I was fully immersed in the concept. I do know that at some point in the film, you do know what's happening, and it's not the supernatural time travel film that we're kind of expecting it to be, right? It's like from the commercials, like you said, you're expecting her somehow, she's moving back and forth through time through this scenario, and how is it happening? All those questions go through your mind. But for me, it didn't. Like, I know what you mean about her character when she's in, I don't know if to say present day or in the time before she's in the compound, let's say, is she's just a person being herself, whether you like her or not. It's almost like she's targeted because she's a famous Black woman. That's pretty much the reason why she's targeted. It's like they even talk about at the end as she's being chased down by Super Bitch and basically saying, you know what, I thought you were too high of a profile to do it, but it's like, he wanted to take you, so that's what happens, right? So I mean, I kind of
in a way I get why they did it, because they basically just were saying, okay, we've got this lady that we're kind of just showing that no matter, what you are, who you are, in this scenario, this can happen. And I don't know, it was very strange for me that this really not that likable group of people, it would have been more effective with me if I liked them more.
Yeah, no, I get it. You weren't as emotionally connected to them, which should be in this type of film. It's like,
and maybe that's the point,
Yeah,
and maybe that's the point, and I'm just missing it.
Yeah, and that's what I felt.
That it doesn't matter that they're not likable.
Yes, it's 100% what it is. But you still wanted to like the movie more. I get it. Sometimes you just don't connect to the characters, and that can be a big thing. For me, we talk. I'm a very character-driven person. You're also have a passion for characters. If you don't like certain things, it can affect your feelings for it. So yeah, I mean, it's to your point, the message is important. People need to watch this film, whether they love it or hate it. We've obviously on both sides of the fence today, but people should watch this film to see with their eyes wide open. That's all I want to say. I want to close it with that. Like, watch this film with your eyes wide open, both from a white privilege and as a person that either enjoys this film or doesn't.
Okay. I think maybe they should watch other films, but
yeah, well, I think they should, because I loved it. So
all right.
Okay, well, let's talk about the magic of fingers.
The magic of fingers. Yes, Fingers, which is currently streaming on Shudder.
Yes. Dum. Antebellum was on Amazon, which I didn't mention.
It was on Prime, yes.
Yeah.
I keep on calling it Amazon, but it's actually Prime. It's Prime Video, my friend.
Oh, owned by Amazon. Right. I get it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Okay, back to
Fingers on Shudder. Dum. All right, this is a story of Amanda, who has issues with the physical imperfections of others. Issues is perhaps not strong enough a word. She is freaked out by the smallest imperfection, so when our when her co-worker Walter shows up to work with a missing pinky, all hell breaks loose. From there, we get a fantastic, unpredictable journey from the mind of writer-director Juan Ortiz. We learn of how truly disturbed Amanda is, and we find out what she has been
what she had
has been happening. Yes, and what has been happening to the digits of Walter. We get introduced to a man named Fox, played brilliantly by Michael St. Michaels, which some of you may know from the movie The Greasy Strangler, which if you have not seen, you really need to. We also get introduced to another character named Talkie, played by Jeremy Gardner, who stars in one of my all-time favorite horror movies, The Battery. Another movie that if you haven't seen, you need to.
Agreed.
Now I use the word characters as each of these is one of a kind. Any one of them could have had a movie made focusing on them, and it would be can't miss.
Yep.
With all these characters sharing the screen time in one movie, there was not one scene that I did not have a smile on my face for. This movie was bliss. I watched this movie at 5 a.m. because that seems to be when I get up these days. And I was surprised my neighbors did not knock on my door, as I was laughing so hard that I must have woken at least a couple of them. This was an odd and wonderfully amusing expedition that I cannot wait to experience again. This was Mondo.
Okay. Fingers. Jazz hands. First off, 80s music kicks you in the face right from the very beginning with a huge Louisville Slugger. Plus, creepy dancing weirdo freak. I'm already on board. I wanted more, and more of Jeremy was I going to get. So apparently, someone has hand and body issues right from the beginning of this movie. Our lead actress is a wreck until she reads a great self-help titled book. Wank. Then the film gets, how I say, continually weirder and more awesome, starting from the cannibal scenes and creating a snowball of hilarity and crazy, creepy fun. FYI, seeing Murray's buddy and our pal, Jeremy Gardner from The Battery, I freaking love this guy. I think he's becoming the new horror icon for the world. Let's recap. Last year, we got to see him in the movie Bliss. Funny how you use that word, Bliss. And also, After Midnight. This is another film where the sound and music were done so awesome. I couldn't wait to hear what they were going to do next with the sound and the music in this. Felt so natural through the whole movie. All these things were great. But the icing on this cake was our hero / villain, Michael St. Michael, the Greasy Strangler himself. Pure bliss. You know what? I don't know if we can think of a word. I mean, you used it, and now I've used it twice in the same review. This movie was completely blissful. You know what I'm going to say next, though, don't you?
I don't.
Ladies who kick ass and punch dicks bring the joygasm. I fucking loved the dogtail. I'm just saying, the dogtail scene was perfect. Gets a handful of fingers, joy-gastic, Walter-loving Mondo. And FYI, the answer to the question we were all wanting to know as this movie was progressing was, what is the price of fingers worth? Well, it's $10 a finger, but only paid in Best Buy gift certificates.
Yeah.
Favorite line, I swear on my nipples. And the response to this was, both of them? Or then perhaps the more popular choice is, what do you say? Fuck me and eat me?
Mm-hmm.
But this still had the best closing line of any movie. This was literally the last thing we knew other than the credits, which was sorry for being a cunt. I'm just like, how can you end a movie more hilariously graphic and violent than this movie? It was perfect. It's bliss.
It was so much fun.
It was bliss.
Yeah.
I love that you chose that word. I love it.
It was total bliss. I was just sitting there with a goofy grin on my face the entire time, interrupted by like uproarious laughter, and then back to the goofy grin.
There's
fantastic.
There's so many scenes in it. I'm just kind of like the scene where they go back. It goes back to Jeremy's house when Walter goes there, and then he kills that guy, and then Jeremy's character is kind of like he's kind of like, dude, I respect the game. It's like Walter's got balls. It was just like so good. And then even at the end with Michael St. Michael's in there, and he's kind of like, how can, like, they came kind of right out of left field, because you're kind of like, okay, this guy's a terrible, evil, creepy villain, and he's like, I want to give you retribution. He's like, what? Because I took the road. It's like, I don't want to spoil it because people should see this movie. But you're right. Yeah. Every scene was blissful in itself. It's a must-see movie.
As a little sidebar here, there was one night that we went to the Night Terrors, one of their screenings, and they actually gave out some Blu-ray discs, and I've got this movie that now I have to watch because I didn't realize that Michael St. Michael's is in it.
What?
I think it's called Extremities or something, but apparently I have the Blu-ray because I won it at a Night Terrors.
Yeah,
screening.
There you go. Shout out to
at some point I got to crack that sucker open.
Yeah, well, and then we'll have to probably watch it together when we're allowed to be together because I want to see it now.
That sounds like a plan. Let's do that.
It's a date. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you have some special music that we're going to listen to.
Sure do.
For those of you who've listened to us a few times, this happens to be the SIF Calgary theme music on Film Rage.
This time we're doing some global perspective.
Yeah.
Top docs. This time it's global perspective.
Yeah. So, we should probably be a little bit more prepared because we should find out for any of our listeners if they're in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, BC, if they can watch these films. But if not, we're talking about these movies. And if you like what we're talking about, just go find these movies, right? Like they eventually end up into streaming sites or they end up on VOD. But we're getting these before they hit anywhere. And we're so blessed that our relationship with SIF Calgary, Calgary International Film Fest, is so strong, and they respect our opinions so much. So we're going to be talking about the big hit, or I'm going to mess this up because my en français is not so bon oui, is Un Triomphe, maybe? Un Triomphe?
No, you don't need the
Un Triomphe. Un Triomphe.
That's it.
There you go. Holy cow, what are you, bilingual?
Oh.
I know you're...
That's my grade 12 French.
Wow, grade 12. That's not bad. I got to grade 9.5 before I dropped out of school and became a drug addict.
Yeah,
but,
I was just looking over Christos's shoulder and just copying all his answers.
Attaboy. So an actor past his prime gives drama lessons to prisoners in an attempt to stage Waiting for Godot. The director, Emmanuel Cour, and there's a bunch of writers. So there's at least 6. So that usually means something. And it's an indication as to where I'm going with this.
It's a collaboration.
It's a collaboration. And it's not a shorts package. So prison films always get me excited. The grittiness, the anger, usually the male nudity. This has a real easy flow to it. It doesn't feel intrusive or brash with these hardened criminals. It didn't seem to hit me though until about halfway through the movie. And then I was like, hey, wait a minute. Aren't these criminals? Why are they being so nice? It would normally have bothered me through the entire story. But it smoothly ran from one scene to the next, pulling me along like a man being pulled by a rope onto stage. The characters are developed well. You see these criminals even with their flaws. The conflicts between the characters don't last long, and the subplots, although kind of go nowhere. For example, like the director and his daughter, almost seems not important other than, excuse me, it shows that he's a bit of a narcissist. But this is already a given. We already know he's a narcissist. So, I mean, he's an actor after all. He's got to have some narcissism. I like this film and the characters, but I didn't get enough prison for a film about prisoners. As usual, the French never disappoint and always deliver the nudity. We get no naked women this time, which we normally do, but we can't win them all. Vive la France avec nudité. Ending, though, was a little bit dumb. I mean, they search the prisoners every night when they come back. Like they had to go into painstaking detail about they search these prisoners, they make them go through all this process. But then, you know, the night that they're doing their final performance, they don't even put a guard on their room. Like I was kind of like, I don't know whose decision it was to direct it in that direction, but I didn't buy it. And the whole time, they respected this director and were helping him and wanting to be with him. And then all of a sudden, supposedly at the end, I'm just like, what? Like it was just, the ending was just so bad to me. It just got under my skin so much. Gets a good prison film minus the shower scene soap drop, but a great naked dance on the front lawn, meh.
Cool. So the big hit, Un Triomphe. This was an entertaining bit of cinema. It had the familiar feel and pacing of many French dramatic comedies. It's loosely based on a true story, which makes it a little more interesting on that level. It has some laughs. It had some very good performances, but ultimately, I do not anticipate this one staying with me for long. I would imagine that I will forget this film within a year or two. No lasting impression, but it is still an enjoyable romp. I would say for those of you that enjoyed The Untouchables, starring Francois Cluzet, this will be right up your alley. For me, it was okay. It was meh.
Whoa. So let's just recap where we're at this week. Pieces of Women was both meh. Antebellum was Rage and Mondo. Fingers was Mondo. And then the big hit is meh.
Yep.
It's like it almost writes itself. It's like it doesn't happen very often. We agree so much. So this is a promising day. However, I guess I have just a little bit enough rage to move into where we're going next.
Figure? Are you sure?
Yeah, I can build it. It's there.
Let's do that then.
Temperature rising. Vision blurring. Rage taking over.
Okay, so my rage this week is really quite simple. I racked my brain, other than, we can rage about COVID, we can rage against the way we have to live our lives these days. But, when it comes to film, I come to the conclusion, I hate mainstream comedies. I just hate them. There's nothing about them I find any redeeming qualities in any of them. Anything that's made by a big production house that is a comedy, I want to run screaming from the building and not have to see it. Pretty much everything that comes out, it's kind of like formulaic, predictable, and I don't enjoy it. For me, going to see a movie, and maybe it's because I watch so many movies, and I'm actually in previewing time right now with one of my film festivals. It's just, I cannot stand watching comedies, and especially when they're not funny. It's just, it puts me over the edge. I'm like, to me, something is funny either unintentionally because it's just funny because it's unintentional, or it's not necessarily at a minority's or at somebody's expense in a real negative way. It's different than if you're making fun of yourself, then that's funny to me. But if it's being sexist, racist, or I don't know, against a certain culture, I don't find it funny anymore. Maybe it's because of who I'm becoming as a person, but a movie where it's focused, and this is leading up to the movie that we had to watch coming up, and this one isn't particular it, but it just made me start to think about comedies and which is the comedies that I've actually liked in the last year, even that I've watched. Can't say as I found one that I've actually liked. That's it. That's all I got for my rage this week. I don't. If you want to really punish me and dare us to see a film, dare me to see a motherfucking comedy, because I won't think it's funny and it'll make me rage.
All right. I'll keep that in mind, Jim.
Yes, you will. And I know exactly where to hit you.
So here is my rage this week.
Is it action films?
No. If there's a twist ending or some sort of surprise in your movie, do not advertise it. The point of a twist ending is not being able to see it coming. Telling you to watch for the twist ending defeats the purpose of having a twist ending. I've talked about this in the past, but back then I was talking about the trailer giving away too much, which is also reprehensible. But literally telling me to watch for the twist ending is just as bad. Having said that, Antebellum's twist ending was not much of a twist, as you could see it coming from a mile away, but they still should have left it out of the trailer. That's my rage.
Well, I'd like to jump on board. I'm game for that. I didn't see too many trailers of this film, so it didn't. To your point, if they're advertising that it's a this is a surprise ending, it's like, well, wait a minute. So I know a surprise ending is even coming, right?
Yeah.
It's like, don't do that.
So, no. It just gets you thinking early on. And the thing was, the first thing that popped in my mind is exactly what happened. But I was like, no, that's too simple. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what else could it be? What else could it be? But it was actually just the first thing that popped into my mind.
Yeah, that's just it. You were hoping from Antebellum that it was going to be something supernatural, like somehow it was science fiction or whatever it was. But
I don't know what I was hoping for, but
that wasn't it. It's interesting though that you talk about that when we talk about surprise endings. Go back to I want to say the most historic surprise ending of all time, right? And that's The Sixth Sense by M. Night Shyamalan, right? Like, let's face it, he did not give anything away in the trailers.
Yep. Right?
I mean, everybody who saw that movie and everybody that came out of that movie was like, I'm not telling anybody about this, right?
Yep.
Because it spoils the ending. Once you see the end, and I don't know how many people had to then go back and rewatch that movie to say, oh, I want to see if there's something that's given away, because it was such a great surprise. Everybody that watched it was like, I didn't see that coming. Right?
True.
That's the way to do it. I agree. Your rage is good.
Yep. There you go.
Except I disagree with Antebellum. It's great.
Rage subsiding. Pulse slowing. Anger fading.
All right. Well, the moment that our listeners have been waiting for with bated breath for months now is, did Bryce actually see another Denise Richards movie? And actually, I want to say kudos and thanks to our listeners. We had so many of our listeners listen to our last episode. It was like our biggest episode ever. So thank you, everybody. And I'm wondering if it's because they're wondering why we're still talking about Denise Richards.
That's literally the title of the episode.
Perhaps we should call this episode, Why Are We Talking About Denise Richards Still?
Oh, man. I can honestly say that after today, we're probably not going to talk about her maybe ever again. So here we go. The moment we've all been waiting for.
Oh, yeah.
And quite honestly, okay, I am sick about talking, about Denise Richards. I am just, I don't want to do it anymore. And thank God I don't have to. Alpha Code was bad. Go figure. Stupid movie about a woman on the run from some sort of agent whose ex-colleague introduces her to another dude who is looking for his half-alien daughter. I know it's hard to believe that this concept is a rage.
What?
But it is.
Sounds awesome. What are you talking about?
I'm not talking much about this. I don't want to rehash this film. I want this all to be over. This Denise Richards nightmare that I've been on for like a month it's over. I'm not watching any of her films ever again. I'm done. Denise Richards is doubted. She couldn't be any more doubted. She not only picks bad films, but she's a terrible actress. No more. Done. No more Denise Richards.
This is the best. Sorry, remember last week when I said that was the best day of my life? This is now the second best day of my life.
Yeah, it's hard to top last week.
Last week was a pretty great week. I knew that you had to go and watch another Denise Richards movie because you made a bad decision on a rating from a previous movie. But I do want to say, because of this movie and because of last week's episode, we got 17 different states from the US to watch our podcast, or listen to our podcast. Nice. So super thanks to all of them. And I'm not going to list them all because 17 is a lot, and I'll probably mispronounce ones like difficult to pronounce, like Virginia.
Oh yeah, those US states are so difficult to pronounce.
I know, right? Wisconsin. You know, like that's crazy talk.
Close enough. They know where they're from.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so the other thing, this is a funny story. We have to talk about this.
Okay.
As I'm sure that Kim shared it with you. But as I'm watching the movie that I've been wanting to watch forever, so we can get Michael Stuhlbarg onto our Undoubted list, was I'm sitting there with my wife watching the movie Shirley, and I get a text.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, Bryce wanted me to tell you that Shirley is now streaming on Amazon. So I took a picture of the screen and sent it to her, and I said, show him this. And she's like, what's this? I'm like, that's a picture of me watching Shirley. So it's just funny how this week in our ratings, although we had one polarizing one, it's how we must have been pretty much in tune because she's telling me to watch it as I'm watching it. It was the best. So now we've already done all the math on this. I just had to make sure that this ended up being a Mondo.
Right.
And it was. I loved it. And I'm assuming you loved it too.
Yeah, it was Mondo.
Yeah. And
I just want to go over him real quick because it's unbelievable the run that this guy's on.
I know, right? Go for it.
With Michael Stuhlbarg, you have to go 17 movies back where for some reason he made Men in Black 3 in 2012.
That's 17 movies back?
Yeah, that's 17 movies back.
So he's still putting together a lot of movies too.
Well, that's the thing. That's 17 back. So he's had 16 movies released since then. And here they are, real quick.
Okay. I'll roll
back. So yeah, 16 cents in. So, and 15 of them are Mondo, in my opinion. 7 Psychopaths, Mondo.
Mondo.
Lincoln. Mondo. Hitchcock, Mondo. Blue Jasmine, Mondo. Cut Bank, Mondo.
Haven't seen it.
Pawn Sacrifice, Mondo. Steve Jobs, Mondo. Trumbo, Mondo. Miles Ahead, Mondo. Arrival, Mondo. Doctor Strange
was Mondo. No, I think you gave it a Mondo.
I'm
for an MCU. Okay, well you can have it, but Miss Sloan is a Mondo. Yep.
Call Me by Your Name, Mondo. The Shape of Water, Mondo.
But the Post was a meh.
Mondo.
It's a meh.
It's Mondo.
You're being kind. That's why we had to see Shirley.
And Shirley, Mondo.
Yeah, Shirley was a Mondo.
Who else? Like, even if you give that other one a meh, and we disagree twice, where the other person gave the one we're giving a meh, Mondo.
Yep.
You put us together, and we're Mondoing the whole thing, basically.
Yep.
Who else has been on that good a run ever
No one.
That is crazy. That is 16 movies. Like, this guy is choosing the best of the best roles.
Yeah.
Like, he is putting himself in the best movies. He's crazy.
Transformative on screen, right? You know what?
Totally.
Okay, you know what I'm going to put out there? This will be the first person that we have on both lists. I say we add him to Mesmerizing.
Okay, I got no problem with that.
He's on both. He's the first person to make Film Rage's Mesmerized and Undoubted list.
I tell you, like, that's crazy. 16 movies in a row.
I freaking love this guy. I love him.
He's so good.
Okay,
he
well,
makes such good choices.
Yeah, I mean, why aren't more people doing this? Why don't people read the scripts? Why don't people understand the?
Just read the script before you.
Yeah, or if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, we got this movie," your agent brings this movie to you, and they say, "Oh, guess what? Yeah," and they say, "I've got this movie for you," and you're like, "Okay, well, tell me a little about the movie. Let me read the script," and then they say to you, "Oh yeah, by the way, there's 7 writers that were on." I'm like, "Nope, I'm out."
Yep.
But if they say, because this is another thing we've seen before, it's a really good writer he's directing his first film. Nope, I'm out.
Yeah.
Right? Because they don't know how to use an editor machine. It's not it, right?
It's all gold.
It's all gold, baby. It's all gold. Well, this is the moment that's been I could have raged every single episode about the fact that I could not access this movie until last week. I could not buy it. I could not rent it. I could not pay for it. I could not stream it. And yet we finally got it because praise the Lord or praise Satan, whatever you want to praise. And somehow the CRTC allowed us to now see it.
They're swell.
They're the worst. Free market, people. Okay, well, I'm going to give you one that I've been meaning to put on. This is another Undoubted. And you may or may not have seen these, but we talked about Michael Stuhlbarg for his 16 movies. This guy hasn't made a lot of movies. He's a director. Putting him up for the Undoubted. We already talked not earlier this year, but late last year, about the awesome director Frank Capra.
All right.
So I'm proposing that we put him on as Undoubted. Now look at the span of his career. 1944, Tunisian Victory. Now I haven't seen this, but I'm pretty assuming that it's going to be Mondo. I'm not sure if you've seen it. Okay, so 1944, the same year, he released Arsenic and Old Lace, which is a Mondo.
Yep.
He did 1946, It's a Wonderful Life, which was a Mondo.
Mondo. Yep.
He did 1948, State of the Union, which is a Mondo.
Mondo.
He did 1950, Riding High, which is a Mondo.
Mondo.
1951, Here Comes the Groom, which was a Mondo.
Mondo.
A Head in the Hole from 1959. So that's an 8-year span. He didn't make a movie, which was also a Mondo.
I don't think I've seen A Head in the Hole.
Okay. Well, you'll be happy you get to see it. And then finally, 1961, which is A Pocket Full of Miracles, which for me was a Mondo.
Mondo.
So you've got to just see one film I guess technically we should see Tunisian Victory, but I don't think that we have to see it.
And that's all he's made?
Well, no, he's made some, but he didn't make that many. Like he's in between like 1961 and Future State, he did a ton of TV stuff. It's like he kind of escaped the theater, the movies, right? So
but those are his last 8.
Those were his last 8. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, you can go back earlier.
I will see. Yeah. No, I'm gonna watch both of those because I can't believe I haven't seen them, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to definitely see Pocket Full of Miracles. So it's I'm a huge Frank Capra fan, and there's a reason, right? When you see movies like It's a Wonderful Life, which is this iconic, right? Like a lot of people, they may not have seen a lot of his movies. I mean, obviously Arsenic and Old Lace is probably one of his also most famous movies. But when you see that movie and you see his direction, and you think someone who carries that much control and passion in his films, he's going to take that with him everywhere. So cool. Well, we got another person we're adding to the wait to see category. And I'm going to throw one more Mesmerized out just because I'm feeling generous.
All right.
And that is Michael Ironside, which we haven't put forward for a while. I know he's made a ton of shitty movies, but for me, anytime Michael Ironside is on screen, I don't want to look at anybody else.
Michael Ironside. Yeah, I suppose he's mesmerizing.
Yes, he is.
I never gave it much thought until now, but
They think
can't argue with that.
every movie he's in, it's like, I mean, I watched.
And yes, he's been in a lot of crap, but
yeah, it's been
honestly,
a lot of crap.
Most of the crap is like over the last, is kind of the later stuff he was doing, which sometimes that happens.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously getting older, he's just trying to find his sea legs, right? But you know what? We got to meet him when he was in town at a film festival. He's the nicest guy that you'd ever meet. Like I got to hang out with him a little bit, and he's just one of the sweetest people. So the fact he's now on our Mesmerized list brings joy to my heart.
Excellent.
That's
all you got?
Yeah, that's enough for today.
I'd say so. Let's move on then.
Okie dokie pokey. Last week on Rage or Dare, we both chose from Murray's Rage Bag in his absence. Well, this week, Bryce will go back to the comfort of my bag of rage in hopes that it is actually a rage, seeing as he seems to like pretty much everything that he gets from the Dare Bag. So, and also, he does like to fondle bags. Let's check back with Bryce first to see if the little people in the elevator with Kevin James will be funny enough for him to give PB2, as I like to call it, a meh, or even in Murray's absence, he can still make us rage.
All right, Paul Blart Mall Cop 2, 2015, directed by Andy Fickman, and starring Mr. Kevin James, made me laugh twice in the first few minutes, and then again about an hour and 15 minutes later. Other than that, this movie was fairly excruciating. And the worst part is the fact that I thought that Mini Kiss was going to be featured, and all I got was a few seconds of them riding in an elevator. I thought I would get at least a clip of their stage show, or maybe even just their introduction. You wanted the littlest, you got the littlest. The hottest, littlest band in the world. Mini Kiss. Nope, didn't even get that. They couldn't even give me that little bit of pleasure. What a bummer. Paul Blart 2 is a rage to no one's surprise.
Yeah. I found this film fitting that it's called Number 2.
I see where you're going with that.
And that's my review.
That's good enough.
Well, okay. So there was 3 funny moments for me. Maybe they happen to be the same 3 funny moments for you. Number 1 was the bird fight. 1 was the face plant as they kidnapped his daughter, and he did a face plant because his hypoglycemia caused him to go face first onto the floor. Catching ice cream from the melting cone of the little girl, I thought was pretty funny.
Well, between the two of us, there were 6 funny parts, because those were the 3 that I thought were funny.
And then, but the security guard from Mall America,
she was great.
Where you always feel safe to shop, was great. Otherwise,
I wish the movie was about her.
Yeah, I wish she made a feature film about her at Mall of America. Maybe it'll be Paul Blart 3, but without Paul Blart. Otherwise, this yet again attempt to be funny by our dearly removed from our doubted list, Kevin James, is an attempt in failure. We have said it before and we'll say it again. Kevin James, you are a brilliant dramatic actor, but you are not funny. And yet again, clearly trying to make him a leading man by throwing him in love interest with super hot women are so completely stupid. The saddest thing about this is I saw this about a year ago and remembered every single thing about this movie. So this
Why did you see it a year ago?
I don't know why. I don't know if it was just, oh, it's Paul Blart, and I don't know why I saw it. Maybe it was playing on Crave or something that I had free for a weekend, and so I watched it. Comedians that are not funny, a sequel, a love interest yet again for Kevin James, who is clearly repulsive. The whole relationship with his daughter is dumb, especially that she is in senior high school and not a child, and she can make decisions for herself. This predictable and cookie cutter comedy was a number 2 in all capacities. I love that he is a complete moron, devoid of any real skills, and yet seems to be Inspector Clouseau, or should I say, he Inspector Clouseau's his way around, over and through everything. A rage-filled turd sandwich, which definitely was not fit for omnivorous, as in me, or vegan consumption.
It was really bad.
Yeah, I won't be eating that turd sandwich anytime soon. We should unpack a few things. At no point did anyone ever call the cops, which I'm completely surprised about.
Well, they had mall cops.
Right, which their only primary job is to call a cop. Hypoglycemic, but only had to stop once for a snack. Once the hypoglycemia started and he was doing all that action, I'm like, dude, he would have had to have like a handful of candies through the whole movie. Surprise, it was produced by guess who?
Oh, I know who it was produced by.
Yeah, someone who's also not funny. Adam Sandler.
He's funny sometimes.
No, he's not. Not ever. Not since he did his albums.
Happy Gilmore was good.
Okay, I'll give you that. Happy Gilmore was good. Bob Barker kicking his ass was the best scene in any movie.
The price is wrong, Bob.
This is wrong, Bob. It's true. That was so good. And we end on a joyous note. This is awesome.
There you go.
Well, thanks, Ragers, for listening. Thanks, the extended Film Rage crew of Leonard Conlon for his artistic vision and photography, and for the cheese that he gave me today via Leonard Conlon Photography. And to our man, the Merman, who we miss you dearly and wish you'd come back in one form or another. Listen to us on all the podcast streaming sites. Find us at Film Rage YYC on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and at our website at filmrageyyc.com. We are always wanting your feedback to make this a raging blast for all listeners. So please go on social media, Apple Podcast, our website, and Podchaser, and give us feedback. Or how about this? Give us more dares. Keep giving them to us. No matter what you do, please make us rage. Please. Please. That's it for this week. Rage on.
Rage on.